Oh, I'm live. It didn't work the first time. Forgot what I was going to talk about. What was I going to talk about? Yeah, well, what date is it? I don't even know what date it is. 26th of the 11th, and it's 6:52 a.m. You might think, what the hell is he doing up at this time in the morning doing this? Yeah. This lockdown stuff, and this virus. I generally mind my own business about what's going on in the world. I don't watch the news, I don't read the news, and I don't listen to the news. I discovered that early on in recovery. It's no good. It's not good at all. It doesn't help with the thinking. The past few days, maybe even the past week, I've been in a pretty dark place. Unfortunately, because of this programme, specifically step 4 and 5 and ongoing with step 10, I recognise it. As before, it just sent me drinking. And it can be quite disturbing at times. Quite disturbing. The other higher power, the other side, the devil. Wow, playing games in my head. I know how to deal with it. All I have to do is do something like this. I mean, I've done a lot of stuff myself for. It revealed an awful lot of stuff to me, especially the dark side. And nothing criminal, please to say. But the number of times I made a complete fool of myself, embarrassed myself, and all these images come flashing back because I've not kept on top of it. I see. All of this stuff that comes up in step 4 and 5, the character defects. The memories of those don't go away. I just keep them in the place with step 10 and 11 on a daily basis. And until it becomes intuitive, excuse me, just being a bit distracted. Yeah, all of this bad stuff just doesn't disappear. No, not a chance. It's just put in its place, and as long as I keep on top of it, then it's okay. And it started slipping back to the fore, back to the front again, and it was quite difficult. I'm also suffering with a bad back, and for the past 2.5 years, it's that long ago I can't remember. I'm on a daily diet of painkillers. So all of this stuff started to sneak back in. And it's not nice. It's not nice at all. And this is part of me pulling myself back out of this hole. So, and I'm sure an awful lot of you, if not all of you, identify with that. The secret, of course, is having a defence against it. And I have a defence against it. I have the option of a defence against it. And some people end up in relapse, but because they've taken the steps, that brings them back. Takes away all their excuses. No excuses anymore. You went drinking. Why did you go drinking? Yeah, right, okay. Don't do it again, or suffer the consequences. At least get some sort of option there, some sort of power over it. And that's fine. It's suited me. It's done me for the last 27 years. Imagine, one as young as me, 27 years, sober, allegedly. How can I prove it? Nobody can prove how sober they are. Nobody can prove they've done the steps or whatever. And some people pretend they've done the steps just to get the pressure off. And pretend they've got a so-called sponsor to, oh yeah, oh no, it's secret. Who's the sponsor? No, it's all secret Sam stuff, You don't get to hear who the sponsor is. It's ridiculous. Disgraceful. And if I'm talking about it, it's probably because it kills people. I've taken too many people through this program to be kind of lax on it and just, well, that's life. It's not. It's not. And that kind of reminds me of, it was a website I came across. I've got it on my phone. This is interesting. One of these academic type chippies. And it kind of rung my bell. What was he talking about? I hear enough. Complete rubbish. Dangerous rubbish talked to him on the internet. Alcoholics Anonymous group. And the old father, whatever his name was, he was talking about steps 1 and 2. What's he talking about? Why is he talking all this stuff? Why is it taking so long? I think it was an hour to talk about steps 1 and 2. You know, this is. I remember the first time I ever heard him, listened to him. I thought I couldn't get it, couldn't get where he was coming from at all. Which isn't good. You know, clear cut sets instructions and such things. You know, I'm going to talk to you about step 1. Don't talk to me about step 1. What's it to talk about? Am I powerless? Yes or no? If you're not too sure, read the first 3 chapters. Are you powerless? Yeah. Never realised that. Right, okay. If you're still not convinced, which is rare. I mean, I've taken more people through this programme than probably anybody in this country, believe it or not. Right, we don't believe you. Just stop posting. Stop posting. Never hide your light under a bushel, the man said to me. I know what? What does that mean? Try to get this light sorted, you know. Ever so professional. Maybe that'll help. Simple program. Oh yeah, so I'm looking at this company here. We've got you can take photographs on your phone. It's fantastic. It's modern age. Mentor session. Nimbus mentor sessions. What have I got on that? It's just a heading. Nimbus mentor sessions. Yes, here. The surprising failure of 12 steps. Were you surprised? I was. Can't even read this word. Keep it simple. How a pseudo-scientific religious organisation birthed the most trusted method of addiction treatment. That sounds okay, doesn't it? But then he goes on to talk about how the 12 steps have failed. Yeah, as soon as I hear these guys, what are you talking about? 12 steps have failed. It's not the 12 steps have failed, it's AA that's failed. Categorically, catastrophically. AA has failed to carry the message, which is in the book. It's nothing to do with 12 steps. 12 steps are fine. So don't talk about the 12 steps failing. And don't knock it till you've tried it. So if you haven't tried it, you've got no opinions on what I'm saying. You've got no opinions whatsoever. Go away, go somewhere else. And yeah, this is a regular kind of thing. And you go into that Alcoholics Anonymous site and you hear them touting this stuff. I talked to an American guy, must be 20 years ago. Possibly, probably 20 years ago. One of these conventions where they invite people over from America God knows who pays for it. I mentioned that at the actual meeting. By that time, I started to create a bit of a reputation for myself as being a big book thumper, or even worse and disgusting, a step Nazi. Yeah. Oh dear, what do you get that from? What kind of program are you practicing, pal? If you can talk that way about somebody. And a lot of sick people, most people who talk this way have never taken these steps. And they just go to AA because they can get away with the rubbish. AA allows it. Yeah, so I ended up talking to this guy. Well, I ended up sharing it at this meeting. Why do we need to bring you guys over here at whatever expense and who pays? Why are we not able to do this ourselves? Why are we not able to sit there and talk the way you're talking? Which, to be fair, was not centred on steps. And yet they've flown over from America. That's a nice gig, isn't it? Get Alcoholics Anonymous to pay for it. Well, I didn't go down too well. In fact, to shut the mic off, so I just shouted. Where there's a will, there's a way. It's not funny. It's not funny. People giving you strange looks. People who you know looking away in case you don't want to be associated with them. It's all very human nature-ish. So here we've got this mob. Let me identify them accurately. The Atlantic magazine, this is in. The surprising failure of 12 steps. How a pseudo-scientific religious organisation birthed the most trusted method of addiction treatment. I don't know whether they've been complimentary there or been sarcastic, because I'm not too sure what pseudo-scientific means. Pretend scientific. Nothing scientific about this. I don't think there was any scientists involved in the writing of this book. I don't think so. I think you'd have heard about it. But correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free, correct me if I'm wrong. And this is what troubles me. That these seemingly professional set up and laid out professionally, everything, the surprising failure of 12 steps. These 12 steps do not fail. AA fails the 12 steps. AA fails everybody who goes to AA. Because there's one thing they do not do. They do not talk about the problem. They do not basically talk about anything you want to talk about, just don't talk about the steps. Because we're dry drunks. We're adult children. And we'll go in a huff and we'll get upset with you. And we'll call you names. How mature is that? Yeah, that was regular. So why am I here? To talk about that, to talk about what you hear on the internet and people in the Father Ted. It's a comedy program in this country. It's quite funny actually. Priests living together. Okay. But here's this priest there pontificating about steps. And not got a bloody clue. Specifically in the simplicity of this stuff. Why do you have to spend all this time? There's another lad, years and years ago. I have to get my painkiller. The diluted form. I'm due to get an operation, but I don't know. It might make it worse. I've got a friend who's not a friend. Guy I used to play football with. He's an orthopedic type guy. And we talked about it. And he says, you could end up in a wheelchair. It's up to you. I just can't be bothered with this constant pain, and it's quite depressing. It takes up a lot of my mental fortitude. Fortitude? That is a good word. So, where was I? yeah, there was this guy. Now I'm going back. I've still got it on the computer somewhere. And he started talking, what was it? Steps 1 to 3, I think he was talking about. And he was talking about some simple, clear-cut, precise instructions. The introduction to what he was about to say. I mean, if it's so simple and clear-cut, precise instructions, why are you even here? You know? Why isn't the AA taking care of it? He then went on to talk a load of rubbish about the simple program and giving instructions and whatever it was. And, you know, he was straight about the stage type thing, you know. But he wasn't a member, wasn't a specific kind of cultish group or whatever. He was on his own doing this. And I was back on there right away, like I read right to a bill. I was on there responding to what he said. Yeah, if it's so simple, why you having to give us half-hour talks on it and whatever. Very straight to the point, and not rude. I wasn't being rude. And although some sensitive types, snowflakey types, would take it as being rude. And I've no time for such people. I've only got time for the book and the simple message that it carries for the sake of newcomers. All these intellectuals can argue all they want. Just keep it out of the rooms and concentrate and focus on what your job is. And what's my job in an AA meeting? To carry the message. What's the message? There is a solution. Oh yeah, this is me talking to a newcomer. Oh yeah, there is a solution. Where is that? It's in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. There you go. There's a copy of it. I've got 2 copies of it lying about somewhere. There's it. The other one's fallen apart. It's been so well abused. Excuse me. I'm not very professional, as you may have noticed. Yeah, that's the sole purpose of an AA meeting. To talk about the solution, which is in this book. 12 steps. 12 statements of fact. Based on the experience of the people who wrote the book. Every step begs a question. How did they do it? And every question is answered in the first 103 pages of this book. I doubt if any of you have heard this. And if you have heard of it, then the shoes are between. And please get in touch. Please get in touch. It's such a lonely place to be here. Such a lonely place to be. And all right. So, first question is, are you powerless? What do you mean? When you want to stop, can you? No. When you start, can you control the amount you drink? Guarantee when you finish? No. That's basically the first paragraph of chapter 4, which is basically summing up the previous 3 chapters. You don't necessarily have to read or go through the first 3 chapters. Just ask 3 simple questions. 3 simple questions. There's people out there saying that you have to study the book. Psychopaths. When you've got a newcomer who's probably a bit shaky, doesn't realise he's an adult child, he's a spoiled brat, he's all that stuff, you know, the bully and whatever else. And a low attention span. Definitely a low attention span. When you're talking all this stuff, before you go to the second page, he's bored. He's bored. So that's how they summed up the first 3 chapters, which are generally more than enough in my vast experience, talking to people face to face. And so that's step 1. Simple as that. Step 1. So if you're powerless, you need a power. Step 2. People who wrote the book found the power. Excuse me whilst I subtly look through, pretend you're not seeing it. Step 2. Came to believe. Who did? People who wrote the book. How did you do that? You launched down across a vigorous section. How it works. Chapter 5. Well, here it is. This is how AA sums it up in the book. A. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after made clear 3 pertinent ideas. That we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. That probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. That God could, would, if he were sought. Being convinced we were at step 3. That's basically what I said. And step 3. Made a decision. You see, the beauty of this simple book is that every step begs a question. How did he do it? And every question is answered in the first 103 pages of the book. That's a fact. You've probably never heard that in any, even some of you old timers out there have never heard it. That's a fact. Being convinced we were at step 3, which is that we decided to turn our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Just what do we mean by that, and just what do we do? They go on to discuss step 3. But you've got a bunch of ex-drunks screwed up to a car funeral, argued where to put a full stop, and yet they created this masterpiece, which is a masterpiece. Somebody described it as a miracle of the 20th century. Yeah. Except it's not a miracle. It's a miracle that the book came to be and they managed to get their act together. I mean, the longest sober was Bill W. and Dr. Bob, about 5 years. Wow. It's just astonishing. And from that came this book. Clear-cut, precise instructions. So there you go. I've been talking for a bit. How long have I been talking? 23 minutes. So for at least 10 of those minutes I've been talking about steps 1, 2, and now 3. We make a decision. Every step begs a question. How did they do it? And every question is answered. That's a fact. The first 103 pages. You can't go wrong. Especially if you've got the guidance of the man described on page 18. Very important. Study that, look at it, and they'll tell you a lot about so-called sponsors. So, I'm fine with this. Yeah, I'm powerless. What I've done so far, steps 1 and 2, tell me that I'm powerless. So I need a power. Yeah. People who wrote the book found a power. Oh, yeah. Would you like to follow their path? Let me see. First thing the alcoholic thinks about, in general, how long is it going to take? How long is it going to take? They want to know. And you turn around and you tell them it's going to take 2 days to turn your life will over. Turn it over. You get it turned back. You don't hand it over and that's it. That's rubbish. It's just nonsense. That's not recovery. So, how did they turn, once again the question, how did they turn their will and their lives over to the care of God as they understood God from the basic message and information in the first 4 chapters? Yeah, okay, I can see something in that, right? Okay, fine. Any business that doesn't take inventory goes bust. I wasn't a businessman at the time. I didn't know anything about that. Didn't have a clue. Then somebody explained it to me. Joe and Charlie, they helped quite a bit in my early days. I find serious flaws with some of the stuff they were saying later on, but at that point they were okay. And he wasn't doing anything, you know. So they showed up quite a few things. Therefore, business, taking inventory. They talked about it and they explained it. You know, if you've got stuff on your shelf that's not selling, then you have to ask yourself, why is it not selling? And maybe I could have something else up there. And this is just taking up space. They explained it to me. All right, yeah, I get that. Simple. That's simple enough. I was 10 years of age. I was 40 years of age with the mind of a 10-year-old, and I didn't know it. And I didn't know that I didn't know. Get your head around that one. That's cunning, baffling, and powerful. That's a fact. Once you go over this kind of stuff, if you need to. So I've got to run this business in a more sensible way. And the first part of which is a moral inventory, step 4. Let me see what I said, just to be perfectly accurate. Oh, there's Mrs. Jones and Mr. Brown, and that's a good part, but we're not there yet. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. There you go. Got to get this business back on its road, got to clear the shelves of unsaleable goods. So I'm going to do an inventory. And it's basically about resentments, feelings of resentment, which was my fuel. I lived on that. That's what kept me going, was feelings of resentment. Anytime I wanted it. So I write out a list of people that I don't like, that I feel resentful about. They should come automatically. I resent my mother, I resent my father, I resent my brother and sister, pals who grew up with me. Nothing's too small. And we lay out A4 paper, page 65. This is getting in the way, actually. Better off without it, in many respects. We'll get an A4 sheet of paper. We draw a line about 1.5 inches in down the side of the paper. That's your margin. And at the top, there's a little rectangular square thingy. You put down the name, I resent. That's a heading, I resent. You go to the other side of the paper, about 2 inches in, you draw a line down. So you now get 3 columns. The first column is I resent. The second column is the cause of that resentment. And the third column is the part of me affected by that. Page 65. I'm resentful of Mr. Brown. His attention to my wife, told my wife of my mistress. Brown may get my job at the office. That affects my sex relations. I'm assuming that's with his wife and not with Mr. Brown. But not nowadays. Self-esteem, fear. Sex relations, self-esteem, fear. This is bringing them down individually. Brown may get my job at the office. Security, self-esteem, and fear. And you list all these on the left-hand side of the page. You list the names. And I started with my mother and my father, which was only I resented that he died. And don't forget, this has gone back 25 years. And it was all pretty straightforward. He told me to write down the list of the names. Don't do them across the way, do them down the way. You do them across the way, by the time you're halfway down the page, some other name will have brought up something else, and you have to get back and edit the first name, and you'll end up there with your head up your proverbial and just crunching it up, chucking that way, and going for a drink. So that's far what good that was. So you do them down the way, and you leave a 5-line gap. So I resent my mother, 5-line gap, line across. I resent my sister, 5-line gap. You get about 7 on each page, if I remember rightly. 7 on each page. And that's all you do. Once you've completed the names, you then go to the institutions that you resent. Oh, right, institutions, right, okay. Right. What's that mean? Didn't know. To institution, like the Royal Family, the police force, unemployment people, and the next section is, what's the next section? I resent people. I remember that stupid thing they used to say, people, places and things. What's things? What's places? This is the stupid stuff they talk. Just read the book. Try to put your own little personality into it. People, places and things. And of course, I'm a newcomer. I'm too frightened to admit that. I don't understand this because they've told me it's simple. So I'm not going to say that. God knows how I survived those early days. God knows how I survived. Truly shocking. Truly, utterly shocking. Some of the rubbish coming out of it. And we've got a list of people I resent, a list of institutions, and a list of principles. Okay, what's a principle? I went to a grammar school. The only thing I succeeded in was art. Yeah. It's quite sad, really. I've got to art school, I suppose. I was too busy living in poverty. Wow. It's quite sad. Reflecting back on it, it's quite sad. It's tragic. No, that's right. Oh. So I make this list. Now, generally, in my experience, I've found that people, when they're making the list of people they resent, by the time they get to the end of that, it's quite simple. When you actually think about it, then you're finished. Because the name should come automatically. And having said that, I think I had 90 names. I've got it somewhere in my folder. I'm going to have to find it. My original set folder. From 27 years ago. I've got a lot of step 10 stuff there as well, which is good. Which is really good. So anyway. I would stick to the first, to the people that you resent. So you make a list of people you resent. Once you're finished, you go to the centre column, which is affects my. Oops. Oh no, that's a cause. So you've got the name of the person you resent. In the central column, you've got the cause of your resentment. Write down whatever that is in your own way. You don't have to write a whole story because you're going to discuss it with a man. So you just write it down a little buzzwords or whatever they call them. And once you've completed that column, you then go to the part of you that's affected. Was it your sex life? Was it your sex relations or self-esteem? Sex comes in there quite a lot, actually. Personal relationships, self-esteem. All of that kind of stuff. how unfair life was to me. Not seeing myself the way that other people saw me, which is a gift, by the way, which you will understand the further we go on with this. I'm beginning to kind of give it a wee bit. I don't know. I'm just trying to get back into the swing of things. And what I'm saying to you is accurate. It's just I'm a bit hesitant. And so I've got a list of people I resent, and the list of the causes, and a part of me affected. I do the same with institutions and principles. Right. It takes quite a bit of time. Don't we? An aching wrist, all the writing you have to do. And I get to the end of it and I sit and discuss it with a man. And this is where it's important. So pick out certain, right, I resent that, right, okay, what happened? Right, okay, so, and you resent that person for that. Is there another way of looking at it, John? What do you mean? Well, maybe they reacted towards you as opposed to acting towards you. What you're writing down here is people who have acted towards you and that you're the victim. Oh, yeah, that's why I put it down. Well, perhaps it'd be a bit more revealing to look at it from the point of view that they reacted towards you because of you. Oh, well, I never thought of that. No, we never do, John. Because we're adult children. And we're in the victim mode. I see. So you discuss it with them, and then you start to realise. And I can see you, because I've done it with so many people, that, yeah, it is you. So consistent. It's remarkable. Truly remarkable insight. For the first time in my life, I saw me. You know, the unwanted goods, the unsaleable goods, put me out of business. I said, that's a nice connection. So, this is starting to reveal things for me. So if I hadn't done that, he wouldn't have done that. And this is what other people were saying when I thought I was top man after having a good game of football. I'm in the pub shouting about how good I am at football. Like, Christ, listen to him. And I used to do the same. I didn't realise I was that person because I didn't know. Because I was an adult child. And it is cunning, baffling, and powerful. And quite a few people just walked away, and that was it, you know. Some other people get a bit upset and a bit argumentative and scuffles, shall we say. But especially in my football playing days, playing semi-professional, I was kind of super fit. So most people kind of steered clear in that respect. Though I never realised just how fit I was and how much of an advantage I had over people. And it only showed a few times. Yeah, I remember my younger brother Paul. So the guy said to me, he says, "Are you John McKeskey's brother?" I said, "Yeah." God, he was a right hard man. A right hard man. You weren't in my head, pal. But that's it, you know, what other people see. And of course, no, I'm not proud of it. This is what step 4 is revealing for me. And it's astonishing. It's an astonishing journey. There was one situation in the pub where I was shouting my mouth off and we'd just won a game and I knew everything. And I was there looking down on myself. And God, look at him. You'd have to be drunk to put up with that. Rubbish. Self-indulgent. But it illustrates how powerful this stuff is. It illustrates how powerful it is. And to show me the discernment. What's my stuff and what's their stuff? Some people took advantage of me. Some people, the clever ones would let's wind John up, That was a favourite, it seems. Let's wind John up. And they would get their kicks and their laughing. Justify putting up with me by doing that. Yeah, but I was just wind them up and get a laugh. So very sad. So very sad. But that's what Step Forward done. But hey, you've obviously got to do it for yourself and find out for yourself. But you find there's a lot of similarities in what I'm saying, and all of this stuff, and all of these defects that are showing through. And I'm discussing it with a man for the first time, and he's not taking any notice. It just, what is it said? Rationalisation and justification, John. Yeah. You've always got an excuse for this, you've always got an excuse for that, because you couldn't see it from any other point of view. Cunning, baffling, and powerful. And it was just dynamite. I left the man's house that night, because we're doing about a book. I went up to visit him that morning, and that night I came home, Step 4 and 5, and he told me that I had to, what did he told me I had to do? So you have to reflect on it, start looking at things, and start taking it a bit more. And Step 6, there's people that have come up with your resentment list, and people who deserve to be there, and people there's no excuses for. And I have to be willing to make, and I have to accept that there are people like that. But then there's the other people who deserve an apology. Step 6 is about those people that I can't handle it, I can't do that. No. That's a big problem for quite a lot of people, especially with so-called sponsors. One quick example without rabbit, a wee woman sitting taking her through the steps, like a guy from a treatment centre gave her my number, and she came up to the house, and we launched her on a course of vigorous action. Launched, you're not coming back. Vigorous course of action. This is a course of action. Very careful how they wrote things. It's amazing for a bunch of extras. And yeah, she was writing down a list of resentments, and he was discussing it with her, these resentments. I said, I noticed you resent your father. I said, why? Well, he sexually abused me as a child. But you realise you have to make amends to your father for resenting them. This idiot, just an idiot. Sadly, like most of them, they're dangerous people, these so-called sponsors. And they don't exist in this book. They don't exist. Except on page 18, you will find a description of the so-called sponsor, the ex-problem drinker who's found his solution, spiritual experience, and who's in possession of the facts about himself. How did he get that? He took these steps. That's how he got the facts about himself. Without whom little or nothing can be achieved. Every group's responsibility to make sure there are people like that in the group. So next group you go to say, how many people on page 18 here? Probably even know what you're talking about. That's scary. That's why AA doesn't work. Because there's all sorts of people walking about AA with all sorts of interpretations of this. I can see what you can see, you can see what you can see. Yeah. Don't tell me what I can and cannot share. Yeah, just a relaxed one. Excuse me. Yeah, getting old. But this is necessary therapy for me. I will have a good day today because of this. And if you're open to this, it will change your life. If you've not been too contaminated by AA, and if you're upset about AA, then hey, get in touch. And I'll guarantee you I'll agree with everything you say and then give you the solution as well, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Set up my own business and make a fortune, be a millionaire. But that's not the case. Where was I before I let that interrupt me? Yeah, making amends to people. Some people are a bit difficult, and it's okay, put it in the back burner. You've got Step 7 prayer to help you with that one. And let's have a read at Step 7 prayer, because I quite like it actually. Where is it? Come out. And it should be on page whatever. Oh, sex as well. Yeah. All that dodgy stuff on sex. To sum up about sex, we earnestly pray for the right ideal, for guidance in each questionable situation, for sanity, and for the strength to do the right thing. If sex is very troublesome, we throw ourselves the harder into helping others. We think of their needs and work for them. This takes us out of ourselves. It quiets the imperious urge when to yield would mean heartache. Goy means, would it be affected that way? Goy means. It's very powerful indeed. Yeah, I love this page 75, page 76. You know, people say, "Oh, you can't do this until what are you talking about? It took me a year to do my step 4." You were listening to the wrong people then, pal. And shocking. One guy said, my sponsor told me that I should concentrate on one step a year. South London. I used to travel all over the place to search for this program. But after I'd got it, it wasn't up here in North London. I was on the south, and this was down Orpington way. Yeah, this wee guy. My sponsor tells me I should do one step a year. Even I can work out that that's going to take you 11 years to get to step 12. And what about the vigorous course of action? And I remember I mentioned it in the meet. Sorry, mate, but it's hardly a vigorous course of action. Oh, don't criticise. There he is. Look at him. First time I've ever been to this meet. Well, why is he criticising? Oh, that's typical alcoholic criticising a bit. Constructive criticism. What's the opposite of being judgmental? The man said to me. He says, I don't know. Constructively critical. Wow. That's good. That's good, mate. I'm just going to be constructively critical here. Yeah. But that's it. It means I'm not being judgmental. That's the best part of it. I'm not being judgmental. It's okay. So I used to worry about that kind of stuff. All right. So constructively critical. That's a good one. Never forgot that. I never forgot that. And for some of these ones we're having difficulty with, there's a step 7 prayer, which is neat. It's nice. That was their prayer. You can use whatever prayer you want. They're now telling you, you've taken up the invitation. If you want what we've got and you're willing to go to any lengths, then you're ready. Right. So they're telling you what they did. And they're instructing you in what they did. It's a book of instructions. Oh, I have to go through this again. There's a wee guy out Colchester way out towards the seaside, east of where I live, 60 miles east of where I live. And his name's Laurie. He was a journalist, a man of words. And I was at a meeting one night, and he interrupted me sharing, because I shared about to be a book of instructions. And he got upset, and 30 odd years old, and a man of words, intelligent guy. It's rubbish. It's a book of suggestions. That's rubbish talking now. And I was ill at the time, and I had to climb up about 30 stairs to get to the bloody meeting, so I was pretty much in agony. I really couldn't be bothered, but I just went, oh God. But the secretary came in and said, right, hey, calm down. The man's entitled to speak his views, and we have to respect him for that. All right, okay. Well done, Mr. Secretary. Very few of them alive. Very few of them alive. And wee Laurie. So I took on board what he was saying. I didn't respond as I normally would because I wasn't well, and I just walked out. And I have no problem with that. The old me will walk out. They'll think this and they'll think that. I really don't care what people think, specifically in an AA meeting. So I left, and then it was only afterwards when I got myself settled and whatever. I was mulling over it. Maybe even doing a step 10 on it. I've got my phone. Phone's handy for it. Just get a step 10 down. Very handy. And if you want what we've got and you're willing to go to any lengths, then you're ready to take certain steps. You have to follow. You will have to follow our instructions. And yeah, right. Yeah, I want to drive a car and all that stuff, but if I go and get a driving instructor, I'll have to follow the instructions. There you go. So it is a book of instructions. You know, I remember. Yeah. So next time I'll bump into Laurie or whatever. Yeah, there you go then. It's a book of instructions. If you want what we've got, you're willing to go any lengths, then you're ready to take certain steps. And you take up the invitation. So therefore, they are now instructing you on what to do. Fantastic. It really is fantastic. Wow. That's right. That's right. If we want what they've got, then they're going to have to instruct us on what they've got. Not just a book of it, a book of suggestions. Oh, excuse me. So that's 6 and 7. I've returned home, by the way. Bottom of page 75. Returning home. We take down the book, we look through what we've done, we're satisfied with it. Okay, fine. Right, let's move on. And so we've returned home. It means we've been somewhere. We've been in a man's house. It doesn't say 2 days, a week, or whatever. It's 1 day. If it was any other, they would have said so. Yeah, of course they would have. If we can answer to our satisfaction, then we then look at step 6. We look at it. There's nothing to practice. I should practice these 12 steps every day. You're doing it wrong, Paul. It's in the book. Come in here talking about what you do. We're not interested in what you do. We're interested in what they've done. This is a big interest. Now can he take them all, everyone? Resentments. If we still cling to something we will not let go, we ask God to help us be willing. When ready, we say something like this. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding, Amen. We have then completed step 7 on a daily basis until you overcome this stuff. It's very powerful. Very powerful. So you don't practice step 6 and step 7. They're on the past tense. First 9 steps in the past tense. Once they're done, they're done. You never have to go back to them. Unless, of course, you relapse and resume, or you have the privilege of taking someone through this program, which I've had many, many times. Don't hide your light under a bushel, John. Hundreds of people have taken through this program. Right, we have then completed step 7. We now need more action, without which we find that faith without works is dead. Let's look at steps 8 and 9. We had a list of all persons we have harmed and to whom we were willing to make amends. We made it when we took inventory. That's right. Isn't that right? One of the columns that I farmed. Yeah, that's right. I never actually get through that. That aspect of it. It should be a bit more careful about this one. That's all right. That's all right. Because steps 8 and 9, we look at them. I've got the list of people I'm willing to go and make amends, direct amends whenever possible. And the man has told me not to do anything, to write them down, but not to do anything with them until I've discussed it with him and the best course of action to take. Because you can make mistakes, like chapping the next door's neighbour's door to make amends to him for having an affair with his wife. I never knew that. That could cause a lot of trouble. You'd be amazed what some people do. In their ignorance, too much ignorance. Too much ignorance. Ignorance kills. So there's step 9, you discuss that with the man. The man knows the score. He's a man of page 18. You know? And you can safely discuss it with him. And any time you're going to make amends to somebody, discuss it with him, whatever, you know. Probably there are still some misgivings. Yep. And you work through it. And what amazes me is that steps 9 is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Eight pages involving step 9. Or I can say my six. My six get worse. The iller I get, the other parts are slowing down. So there I've got it. That's it done. Everything's sorted. A whole new world, a whole new life, a whole new approach. Page 86. Yeah. See, this is this fourth edition, and I keep thinking I've moved things about for some reason. Mm-hmm. We believe we can make some definite and valuable suggestions as regards step 10. Step 10 suggests, can't make suggest. We continue to take personal inventory and continue to write any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. So we're cleaning up the past and we're commencing with this way of living. Some people are out there making amends to people. They can only, their sponsor told them, once you've done that, then you can go to step 10. Just unbelievable, some of the stuff. And then when you point out to them their sponsor told them rubbish, they get all defensive. Oh no, he's a good man. Oh, he's this. No, he's not. But hopefully they go home and think about it and say, yeah, the guy's dead right. And the promises there, page 83, page 84. Just noticed it there. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialise if we work for them. If I was to get amongst my peers when I was drinking, if I was to go back there and sit amongst them, they would notice the difference. They would notice the difference. God, he's changed. They might not like you, they might not like it, but the one thing they have to admit, you've changed. Yeah, that's okay. But what I like about the promises is we will intuitively know how to handle things that used to baffle us. Wow. I remember when I first came in, first year or so, and I used to go to one meeting because they read out the promises. And every time they read out that one, we will intuitively know how to handle things. And I got a tingle on it. Wow. I didn't know that was spiritual. I didn't know anything about it. I've been going to AA for 9 months, so I wouldn't know anything about it because I've been going to AA. I'll repeat that, been going to AA, and I don't know what this means. It's just shocking. And but I loved it. And I went to this wee meeting because of that. They read out promises. And that's the one thing that gave me a buzz. At least one thing would give me a buzz. I was to survive 2 so-called sponsors. And I was to meet the man on page 18. Not many people do that. Not many people do that at all. And that's a tragedy of AA. That's a tragedy of AA. They're all doing their own things because they're all a bunch of small brats. Adult children. So that's the first 9 steps. To the best of your ability. If you've got the right person guiding you, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. You'll start to realise. So what do you do now? Oh, what's it say? Well, we continue to take inventory. But this time it's a personal inventory. About the goods on the shelf and all that. All right, now make sure everything's, run this business properly. Right, okay. So I do it on a daily basis. I take stock on a daily basis. What happened to me that day? Did I do it? And basically simple. How do you do that? Just write it out the way you wrote out your step 4. All right, okay. That's simple enough. Yeah. If you get any problems, give me a call. Right, that's okay. And faith without works is dead. Yeah. And so to all intents and purposes, I have recovered. As long as I maintain my spiritual condition. So by virtue of the first 9 steps, I've obtained a spiritual condition. Yeah, right, okay. Didn't actually know what that meant, but I was okay for that. And I felt good. I felt really good. And so good. I didn't know. Some people afterwards pointed out to me, said you've changed so much. One wee woman, lovely wee woman, she was a model, high-flying model in the late 60s, involved with the Superbands at the time, and all that stuff. And she told me an interesting story about it. Her and Keith Moon. She was going to go and show. She was going to go and show somebody else, Frankie Valli or somebody, who was stopped her from going to shoot Keith Moon. That's what her alcoholism was. The exact opposite of mine. That was brought up in the grave of poverty. And here she was, super rich and all that stuff, still an alcoholic. And she came up to me once and she said, you used to frighten me. Well, I was surprised at that because I still couldn't see myself as a lot of people saw me. And I said, yeah, I was frightened when you were talking, you were so angry, and yet you've changed so much. Thank you. What can I say? What can I say about it? And that was lovely. That was really nice. This is from fellow alcoholics. And yeah, there's one big Scottish bloke as well. See, I never met anybody who wanted this as much as you did. Oh, thanks. But the rest of them, they just turned against me. That's what they do. They alienate you. They haven't got a clue what you're saying. They don't understand you, you frighten them. And I said that to them. They're not talking to me. Call me names. Call me a big book thumper. He said, well, sadly, John, the truth is, if you talk this program in those rooms, you'll end up drinking coffee on your own. I said, what are you talking about? This is what I needed to hear in the rooms, and now I'm able to do it. He says, that's the sad truth of it. you'll end up drinking coffee on your own. And that's the most accurate statement ever made to me. But for years and years, I did nothing but take people through this program. Taking 2 people through the program a week was no problem. No problem. And that was a regular occurrence. And wow, every now and again I meet one of them. And I can get into the experiences with that. It's just astonishing. But the wee woman who was told that she had to make amends to her father who abused her. I don't know, did I finish that story? This father had sexually abused her, and this psychopath of a sponsor told her that because she resented him for doing that, she had to go and make amends to him. This happens, by the way. This happens. There are resentments out there you're quite entitled to have. Like people in Iraq or Iran or whatever are quite entitled to resent the Americans because they just blew up a village and their children. And well, yes, of course, I'll resent them. Quite entitled to do so. I'm glad I got that one in. I may not have forgot it, but that's quite important. So step 10 is there's now a personal inventory, a personal diary. Write out the same way you won't go far wrong, and share it on a regular basis until it gets to the stage where I've cracked this. I know this stuff. I don't need to be sharing this. The man who's taking me through would probably do that as well. Although most sponsors hang on to sponsors because they're chuffed. Oh, he's my sponsor. Yeah, and all of that rubbish and self-indulgent, egotistical crap. And they're supposed to have a program. You can't do that if you're taking these steps the way they're laid out. Because you see yourself the way that other people are. Oh, I won't go there. I remember him. Especially the aliens. Very careful. And there are certainly justifiable resentments, certainly. That has to be sorted out. How many people walk away because we even that? People are perhaps a bit more intelligent than me, or more life experience than me. That's quite scary. Step 11. Sort through prayer and meditation. All right. Prayer. Okay, fair enough. Entirely up to yourself. Meditation. I remember when I heard that, I thought, oh my God, here we go again. Going to be bouncing up and down the mattresses and humming and hawing and the Dalai Lama. Oh my God, sakes. Actually, it's very simple. Meditation. To meditate. To think deeply. Oh, really? Yeah. I'm good at that. Yeah, you're dead right. You've discovered just how good you are at it. You've taken steps 4 and 5. Yes. The only problem was, in those days, before the program, before my enlightenment, all I meditated on was negative stuff. That's all I had, right from a child, and all the abuse I suffered. God knows how I survived that. God knows. So yeah. So it's deep thinking about something. I now think deeply. Think deeply about this. What's it here? Think deeply on a daily basis about other things. Nice things that happen. Little things that happen. That's nice. And yeah, absolutely. That's where the meditation comes in. And it's all about thinking. This whole illness is based around thinking. What goes on in between there. And this program helps me to change my thinking to a more positive way. And thus I recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Step 12. What's step 12 again? Having had a spiritual awakening. Not an experience, an awakening. That's it. Do we reach the heavy heights of experience in step 12? I don't think so. Anyway. Working with others. Well, here it says it here. Practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. It works when other activities fail. This is our 12th suggestion. Carry this message to other alcoholics. You can help when no one else can. You can secure their confidence when others fail. Remember, they're very ill. Life will take on a new meaning. Yeah, it's true. Pray only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Having had a spiritual awakening / experience, we practice these principles, rules and laws, step 10. We practice these principles. In all our affairs. If you have a blank spot, it's not bad to go to step 12 without a real blank spot. So through prayer meditation, seeking only knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Wow, it's good at that. So there you go. You've now got step 12. You've got the option. You've got a condition of spiritual. You have, to all intents and purposes, recovered. As long as you maintain your spiritual condition. Step 12. On a daily basis, 10 and 11 on a daily basis, and try and help other people. That's it. You've recovered. You have become that person. And it becomes intuitive. As practice of anything does. You want to ride a bike, you practice it. And we all know that, don't we? We're really super keen to ride our bike. And you practice it, and you fall off. Sometimes you pick yourself up and get back on again until you master it. I like that. And it's very nice to think along those lines. It's very nice to go down this path, to repeat and reflect on the journey that I've been taken through. And you will recover if you follow these clear-cut precise instructions. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we practice these principles and try and help other alcoholics. Wow. That's dynamite. And I've done that in 1 hour and 13 minutes. Pretty sure everything I've said is pretty accurate. If you find any fault in what I'm saying, please get in touch, because that needs to be corrected. Or we'll decide that you're wrong. Fine. So there's the facilities there, you can do it. If you don't hear what I'm saying, just ignore me. But that's not true, is it? Because what I'm saying is in the book. So you can listen to what I'm saying, then you can refer to the book and say, right, there it's there, right, everything he says is in the book. Right, okay. And there you go. Job done. Go on with it. And give us a call if you get any problems. You can stop. I'll be more than happy. If anybody hears this, because I don't even know where this goes, I don't know how you go into all these sites or whatever, if it's possible to go into these sites. You know? But that brings me back to the beginning about this. Yeah, the wee guy who was up there talking about how clear-cut, precise instructions were in step 3. I forgot to finish that little story. I responded back, basically telling him he was talking a lot of rubbish and it's dangerous what he's saying and da-da-da. But, of course, I couldn't write back because he didn't leave comments. He barred the comments. Kind of knew where he was coming from. Why would you want to bar the comments? So I forgot all about it. Then years later, I came across it again, and people were writing, "Oh yeah, it was really good." And I went back and basically said the same stuff from 6 or 7 years previously. And a few people came back and, well, actually, you've no right to say, all this defending of poor wee guy and all that stuff. Because it transpired that the poor wee guy had committed suicide. That his whole life had fallen apart. Which doesn't surprise me, the rubbish he was taught. And yet he came across as a newcomer. I would have thought, hey, he sounds really good, he's really professional, striding up and down the stage and all that stuff, performing. I would have been quite impressed with that. Or I would have said, let's stay that prat, off you go. But did they read my comments? Other people did. No, I couldn't. It was the second time round those comments were left. I thought, well, that's interesting. Now I can. But I hadn't realised he was dead. Excuse me. I will survive. Oh, Diego Maradona's dead. I don't know why I would for playing him, but he was a cheat. He was a nasty little drug addict. And not a very nice person at all. But there they are. They all know that, but they're glorifying him. Yeah, okay, fair enough. It's good. He was a damn good football player. But there's more to be a football player than that. And I made a kiss to tea and press with his cheating, the England hand of God thing and all that rubbish. Just shocking. And he's gone now. So I just thought I'd throw that one in. But she'd now forgotten what I was going to say. This is what happens when you get to my age. You start thinking about one thing, then somebody else comes in, you go ahead, where was I? Where was I? I hope that didn't happen too often during my little talk about the programme. I don't think I made any mistakes. And you can cross-reference everything in the book. This bunch of extras who'd have screwed up at 2 Café, who'd have argued where to put a full stop. Try to tell me there's no God. Or higher power. I'm not too keen on these modern type gods, Allah telling Muhammad to go and chop people's heads off. No, that's not God. Yeah. Allah, a warlord. Muhammad, a warlord. Because he was instructed by Allah. So Allah's a warlord. No, not God. That's it. Simple as that. Forget it. Nothing else to talk about. And there's comments about stuff in the Bible which I'd never heard about people being told to use a sword and stuff like that. And there seems a lot of that happened as well in the Bible. Oh, there you go. I quite like Jesus. He's a pretty decent bloke. Yeah, and as one wee guy said, if I live my life like Jesus Christ, then I'll have a good life. So, yeah, when you get to that. So, I can't be bothered with atheism because it's so dead-ended. You're an atheist. That's it. Once you're done, you're done. Yeah. Agnostic? Yeah, fine with that. But I know what all these words mean. Didn't when I first came into AA with the mind of a 12-year-old. I think I've got the mind of a 16-year-old now. Can put sentences together with a struggle, as you've noticed. And this is like prologue. Prelogue or pro? Pro is after pre is. Try mop up with things that I might have forgotten. I think I pretty much covered the 12 steps. And that's it. So I'm not going to bore you any longer. I think, as I've already said, if there's any problems with what I'm saying, please get in touch and we'll get things sorted out. And if I make mistakes, I want to know that I make mistakes. Nobody's done that. I think I've done about 10 of these. Nobody's done that. Then I don't know. I don't even know if it's going on. It is going on sites, but I don't know where it's going on. If any of you get any ideas with that would be helpful. Am I actually going on? It says end stream down the bottom here. So this is the beginning of the day. It's now 8:13 a.m. And I think it's a Thursday. Anyway, ta-ta. Have a good life. Bye.